Hey guys, 243 is me, and we're back with another gun video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mini 14 Ranch Rifle. This is the latest version of the rifle. And we're also going to be discussing its role as my WROL rifle, and why I chose this as my WROL rifle. We're also going to be taking a look at some of the other stuff I have in my EDC and my bug out. We'll discuss more of that though in a later video. I mainly want this video to be about this rifle, and more particularly why I chose it as my bug out rifle. Alright, now the first question you might ask is, why wouldn't you take an AR-15? Why wouldn't you take an AK-47? Etc. The list goes on. There's literally endless amounts of other choices, and I'm going to give you guys some insight into why I chose this rifle and why it pretty much fits everything I need in a WROL rifle. So, when I was researching, looking at the internet, the forums, you guys have all been there, trying to separate the BS from the facts. Eventually it got to the point where I just had to stop and ask myself, what was I looking for? What did I need? And what best suited me and where I lived? And this wasn't really something you're going to get on the internet. This is something you're just going to have to really break down and look at yourself and just make a decision and stick with it. Now, one of the main reasons I chose this over an AR or an AK was, if you look in the media nowadays, the AK-47 and the AR-15 are pretty much front news every day. Mass shootings, terrorists, etc. But people recognize, and obviously gun people are going to recognize this rifle as being a semi-automatic, I don't want to say high capacity assault rifle, but that's pretty much these anti-gun terms. That's what I didn't want this gun to look like. Is it that? No gun is that, but that's a whole different video. We'll get into that in a different thing. But what I wanted was something that didn't look like this painted picture of media's terrorist, bullshit. I wanted something that just looked like a standard rifle, but still had the capacity of an AR-15 or an AK-47. Like, I wanted, if somebody looked at me, I didn't want to look like a bad guy, if that makes sense. And obviously, if I'm bugging out, I don't want people to look at me at all. But I sure as hell don't want them looking at me like, look, he's got a black rifle, he must be here to kill us all. I just want to be, I want them looking in the opposite direction. So that's one of the main reasons I went with this rifle, because it's got a wood stock. It's standard configuration. This has been the standard type of stock rifles have been using for the last 200 years. The second biggest reason was it has a standard battery of arms, which means if you look at this stock and look at this stock, obviously there are differences, but the stock design is basically the same thing. So most people who grew up with a hunting rifle, shotgun, what have you, don't have to transition. It's not as big as a learning curve if I handed that to them and said, good luck. Obviously that would be a last case scenario if I'm handing my rifle to someone else. But if I had to in a certain situation, or if the need arose, I would like them to be familiar, or as familiar as possible, with handling a standard firearm. If that makes sense. I guess that was a little long worded, but that was the general idea. Now, another thing I liked about this rifle was it has a reputation of being reliable. And I'm not just talking about the Mini 14, but its dad and its granddad. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean the M1 Grand and the M14. Now, this pretty much uses the same action as both those rifles and is combat proven, it's combat tested, and it's reliable. Has this rifle seen combat? Not this one particular, but law enforcement has adopted them. They have seen combat with other countries, and they're proven they're reliable. Now, the original versions, from what I understand, were not that accurate. I never owned one, never shot one, couldn't speak to it, not even gonna. I'm just gonna tell you my experience with this rifle. Um, it's accurate. It's as accurate as I need it to be. When I'm really trying, I can get it to shoot into about 1.5 inches with, standard good ammunition, like decently good, with just like 5.56 ball ammunition. It'll shoot about 2 to 2.5. If I'm rushing it, 3 to 4, which is, I mean, most ARs are probably going to shoot better than that, but it's about the same as an AK. I mean, it's minute a bad guy, so good enough. I went ahead and I threw a Bushnell TRS 25 red dot scope. Excellent scope for the money. Highly recommend it. I got that on Amazon. I think I paid about $75, something like that. Shipping, handling is probably more now. Not 100% sure. The Tapco magazines, awesome. The Gen 2s. I did some research on them. Found a YouTube video by Nuttin' Fancy. He highly recommended these magazines. I think he went as far as saying the best Mini 14 magazine in the world. Definitely agree with that. It's lightweight. It's as reliable as the Ruger factory magazines. I mean, this is my experience. Your experience may differ. Like, I had a Mag Pro magazine. I had some cheap Chinese knockoff. Both those sucked. I thought Ruger factory magazines were pretty much what I was limited to. I hated that. Tapco came out with their Gen 2. Awesome. I bought 2 of them. They run great. I went ahead and ordered some more. Definitely probably going to run those as my standard magazines. Downside to this rifle, it's heavy. I mean, it's not heavy, but it's heavier than an AR. I don't have too much on there, so it's not horrible. I can work with it. I went with the full length barrel versus the tactical, because I am shooting the 5.56. I wanted as much velocity out of my cartridge as possible, so I went with the longer barrel. I don't foresee myself fighting in too many CQB situations, so I'm really not that worried about having that extra length. Let's see. I mean, I just can't say enough good things about this rifle, guys. And what brought this up, and the reason I'm doing this video, is I work in a sporting goods store. I sell rifles and ammunition for a living. And I'll have guys come in all the time because we carry these minis on the rack, and they'll tell me, why you even bother trying to sell that? The AR-15 is made obsolete. And in a way, yeah, they're right. But I sit there and I listen to these guys and I think, in my philosophy of use, it's exactly what I need. I mean, I can't think of a rifle that fits the role better. Because if I come up against a bad guy with an AR or an AK, I'm not going to feel outgunned. I'm not going to be really freaking other people out, these anti-gunners. Not that I really care, but at the same time, my main thing about that is I don't want them looking at me. I want them looking at me like, oh, it's a hunting rifle, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a gun. They're probably going to fear it a little bit. But, I mean, they're used to seeing these ARs and AK-47s because of the media, Call of Duty, and all this stuff, and they know what that is. If they see this, they're kind of going to look at it like, from a distance, it looks like a hunting rifle. Now, obviously, with that 30-round mag sticking out of there, probably kind of gives it away, but I can throw a 5-round, 10-rounder in there. Another thing, I have a high-powered optic on there. I mean, I'm expecting my standard engagement distances where I am to be 0 to about 100, 150 yards. That's why I went with the red dot scope. I'm probably just going to ditch that scope just because it's extra weight. I mean, I'll throw it on there if I'm hunting with the rifle or whatever. I rarely ever do that just because obviously I have rifles for that. But I guess it's just more if I decided I did want to do that, or if I did move or something to somewhere where I had a lot of open ground around me, I might put that on there. I don't know. I just like having the option, I guess. But again, guys, I just wanted to make this video because a lot of guys saying this gun is dead, that there's no need for it anymore. In certain situations, I would probably say, yeah, I would go with an AR or an AK. Where I live, my philosophy of use, this is what works for me. This is just my opinion, guys. If you're running ARs, if you're running AKs, awesome rifles. I totally get why you would do that. I'm not dishing on you guys. I love my AR, love my AK. But for what I wanted and my philosophy of use, this is what I wanted. This